बनवायचे किंवा सर्व्हिस आहे, whatever it is. तर त्याच्यानंतर what do you guys think is important for the startup to be successful? After the entrepreneur has thought about the product, thinks about the market, customers, etc. काय पाहिजे असतं entrepreneurला? That's right. We need funding, right? So गरजे मराठीमध्ये एक नवीन उपक्रम आहे आणि त्यासाठी मी इन्व्हाइट करतो Ms. Sonali Sambhus and Mr. Naresh Apte. They're going to talk a little bit about a really special program here, which is going to talk about venture capital funding for startups. Let's give it up for Ms. Sonali Sambhus.
Hello everyone. First off, me Miss Sonali Sambhus nahi Mrs. Sonali Sambhus आहे. माझा नवरा तिथे बसलाय, so I need to clarify. So Naresh and I are here today to talk about the GMG Venture Capitalist Program. So first off, it's not a venture capitalist program, it's a venture catalysts program. And I want to clarify that because we're not running a VC fund, it's not $10 million, $20 million. What we want to do is we want to enable the access to the capital to our startups, like Abhijit said, and enable investment opportunities to our angel investors out here and outside today. So not a VC program, a venture catalyst program. And so ह्याची आयडिया ॲक्च्युली मला मागच्या जे GMGचं आपलं समिट झालं त्याच्यानंतर आली. I have been involved in GMG very recently after the summit, thanks to Garje and everybody else who's put this together. आणि त्यावेळी तुम्हाला आठवत असेल तर we had this spark room pitch day which Dr. Sanjay Bhandari and the team led. And we had, I think, a cohort of about 10 startups. A few of them got to present, few of them got to show the presentations. And after that program happened, a lot of those startups got in touch with me. I was fortunate enough that they reached out. And I realized that about close to $1 million actually were exchanged hands. So angel investors out here in the US actually invested close to $1 million in my experience with just the startups that I was working with. And Dr. Sanjay Bhandari just clarified to me it was close to 2 million today that has exchanged hands from investors globally that has gone to our startup funders in India. And so I'm deeply involved, by the way, in the venture ecosystem. While I'm a Silicon Valley CTO VP, recently I've turned to the dark side, the venture side. And so I'm an angel investor, I'm an advisor to VC firms here in the US, and I help them with due diligence. So if some of you try to raise capital and the VC firm said no, sometimes I'm to blame, sorry. And so I'm deeply involved in the venture ecosystem here in the US and now very much so in India as well. And so I have had the opportunity front seat to see the quality of startups, how they're improving, and the quality of content that's coming from startups in India. And at the same time, I've had the front seat of looking at angel investors here who are looking for opportunities. A lot of my friends come to me and say, I want to be part of India's growth story. Right? I want to pay it forward, plus I want to multiply my investments. And how do I find these gems of opportunities? So based on what I've seen, I think there is appetite on both sides. Startups obviously want more capital. It's like adding fuel to the fire, and investors want good investment opportunities. So that led to the motivation of thinking about this program today. Next slide. Okay, this is going to look very, very close to what Dr. Sanjay Bhandari put together, and I swear I had not spoken to him about it. I had not seen his deck. मी त्यांचा पेपर कॉपी नाही केला, त्यांनी माझा नाही केला. But I think while I was thinking about the larger ecosystem of startups and entrepreneurship, I thought that to really complete the circle, right, of what the ecosystem of services that we want to provide to our startups, it definitely starts with something like Innovation Academy, where we give them the training, the education, all of that good stuff. has to get combined with capital where this program comes, and then of course needs to have a larger advisor mentor program, advisors that stick with the startups and help them grow and scale, and then eventually services. So this may look very close to what Dr. Sanjay Bhandari put together. Again, we did not copy each other's slides. Right? Next slide, please. And so the goals are very clear and simple. One is enable startups to access to global capital. And so this could be Maharashtra-based entrepreneurs anywhere in the world. We have some Maharashtra-based entrepreneurs here in the US, in Singapore, India, right? So it's actually really enabling Maharashtra-based entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs from Maharashtra origin, let me be very politically correct, right? All across the world. So it's really the goal of the program would be to enable those. And for all of us angel investors, I'm sure this room is full of high net worth individuals, right? And so for all of the high net worth individuals, it's really enabling access to the startups and then perhaps even advisory opportunities. We're seeing such variety of startups, right? MedTech, health tech, agri-tech, standard B2B SaaS, B2C, right? And all of them seek different advisory, members. And so I'm sure we have a capable room of talent here that can add value. So in some ways for all of you and more here, this actually enables you to find those advisory opportunities to advise these startups as well. And then ultimately enabling 1% GDP for Maharashtra. Right? So that is the other goal as well. And so next slide, please. So, next question could be, how do you operate this, right? What is the process to go around this? So I think for startups, it would be very similar in some ways to GMG Innovation Academy. The startups would be, essentially applying to these programs. They would be responsible for their own valuation terms, right? So, startup could say, my valuation is $10 million, basis this 3 dimensions, and I'm looking to raise angel investment of 400, 500K. So the startups come in, they do that. The angel investors themselves, get to see all the pitches. So imagine GMG Spark Room, run on a global scale and run continuously, right? So imagine that, right? We saw maybe 10 or 100 startups. Imagine you see 3,000 startups, right? So imagine the large scale. And so the startup investors get to see those startups. They get to do their own due diligence, and they get to decide, whom they want to invest in. And what does GMG Venture Catalyst program do? We just enable. We are the bridge that enables this. A, we are not a fund, right? B, we have no liability or interest or stake, right? It's a non-profit program, so in that way, it is really enabling the flow of capital, but neither having the responsibility or the liability for it, but just enabling that capital. So that's in a nutshell a program. I have to say, Naresh and I have spoken about this. It's very early. We just thought that it would be a great idea to formalize this, but having said that, we are in early stages of forming this program. And so if you go to the next slide. We would love to hear from you. Like every startup, we want to hear from our customers. We want to make sure that, we've heard your voices. So Naresh has put together a survey. If you don't mind taking 2 minutes and going to that URL, bit.ly/GMGVcats, right? If you could go there, Naresh has a good survey that he's put together.
So, yeah, just real quick. Chota survey, far away, probably maybe 2 minutes at the most, okay? Unfortunately, I'm at the, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So, it is case sensitive, unlike a typical URL. So, just make sure you match the case on that. Just real quick to add to what Sonali said, right? Startup च्या दृष्टीने किंवा startup ecosystem च्या दृष्टीने, what it really comes down to is access to people, access to capital, and within access to people is access to customers and access to talent. Okay, so what this really is creating that watering hole, if you will, right? Wherein all of these ecosystem partners can come together. Sanjay आता 16 आठवड्यांच्या cohort बद्दल बोललेच already, right? What happens after that success? The journey doesn't end there, right? त्याच्यानंतर काय?
Can you hold the mic a little close?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay now?
Actually, I don't think it's on.
Yeah, it's not working.
Mac is not working, yes.
Can you guys hear me now? Okay. That's good. Okay. So, तो 16 आठवड्यांचा प्रोग्राम झाला की त्याच्यात नंतर पुढे काढणार, right? Story doesn't end there, the journey doesn't end there, right? So the idea is we have continuity in that engagement, right? आता आपण 16 आठवड्यांचा प्रोग्राम केला किंवा तुम्ही डायरेक्टली याच्यामध्ये आला असाल व्हेंचर कॅपिटल प्रोग्राममध्ये, whichever way it happens, right? We address all those three angles: access to capital, access to customer, access to talent, right? And आता हा सर्वे जो आहे इट्स मेनली जस्ट आस्किंग प्रायमरीली, सोनाली जसं म्हणली तसं की वी नीड हेल्प. दिस इज नॉट समथिंग दॅट सोनाली अँड आय कॅन डू फुल टाइम. वी आर नॉट डेफिनेटली डुईंग दिस फुल टाइम, राईट? सो सगळ्यांचा उपक्रम आहे, सगळ्यांनी जेवढं कंट्रीब्यूट कराल तेवढं प्रोग्राम सक्सेसफुल होईल. आणि इट्स नॉट दॅट यू हॅव टू हॅव ए बिग फॅट वॉलेट टू जॉईन GMG VCATs, right? That's not the intention here. It's not meant just for angel investors. There are other survey मध्ये I don't want to give too much in the survey, but survey will ask you about की तुम्ही कुठल्या capacity मध्ये याच्यामध्ये contribute करू शकता. And I think everybody has something to give. Everybody in this room is expert in something, and they can give back in some way and can help the startup ecosystem thrive within this community. मी जनरली बऱ्याच वेळा करेत्सू फोरमचा करेत्सू कॉन्सेप्ट आहे करतो की जेव्हा आपल्याला कुठल्याही गोष्टीची गरज पडते, आणि संजयजींनी त्याच्याविषयी म्हटलं की शेअर्ड सर्व्हिसेस आहेत आपल्या, आपण याच्याबद्दल आताही सोनालीने सांगितलं जसं की जेव्हा आपल्याला कुठल्याही गोष्टीची मदत लागेल तेव्हा पहिले आपण हे बघितलं पाहिजे की GMG नेटवर्कमध्ये कोण आपल्याला ही मदत करू शकेल. जो करेक्ट कॉन्सेप्ट त्याच्यामध्ये आहे, इफ वी कॅन ब्रिंग दॅट स्पिरिट इन, I think there will be a lot of synergy that we can bring to this program. So please go to that survey. We will basically be synthesizing your responses, and looking forward to your help to make this success.
Very well said, Naresh. If you guys have any questions, comments, feedback, we both are around. Actually, if you go to the next slide, I actually have our email IDs as well.
Next slide.
The one after. Yeah. So our email ID is up there. Sonali, Sambhus @gmail, Naresh.apte@gmail. So if you can't catch us here, please feel free to send us emails afterwards. And we look forward to bringing capital to our GMG ecosystem of startups and adding fuel to the fire.
Thank you.